What's the best advice you've ever received? Don't believe in things because they sound good or are convenient to believe in. The truth has no obligation to be beautiful or convenient. The ugly truth is better than pretty lies, yet most seek the latter. What gets me is people who seek out ugly lies because they want to feel good about themselves for knowing the truth. Yeah. You gotta take the good with the bad. But you gotta take the bad with the good. One cannot simply call the world ugly when it is also beautiful. World is complicated. Mr. Roger's mother had a good phrase whenever a disaster happens. Look for the helpers. It's unfortunate when bad things people are willing to help. My older brother once told me this after I had vented about another failing relationship. If you have a problem in your relationship and you haven't told your partner your problem, it really forced me to work on communicating better and also knowing when to call time in general. Only take advice from people who have what you want. Helped me find actual mentors. And got me reading things that would actually help me. Great advice. When people learn I've been successful financially, they either want to tell me about their business idea or ask me how I did it and how they can too. Almost universally they don't actually listen to me. They're too excited to talk about themselves and their big plans. I'm very willing to give people advice. But in 2 or 3 years I've yet to meet someone who actually listens. These days, in real life, I do everything I can to suggest I'm not wealthy so people don't pitch me their speepty business ideas then ignore me when I offer feedback. Undefined. You're better off finding people in a field that interests you. If there are none, that's not a field for you if you want to get wealthy. Emulate them. And getting their advice. Come to people with ideas and give them something to work with. Then listen. If I were a wealthy person I'd live below my means and stay in the shadows. Most of them do. Nicer house. Car and clothes. $1 million in the bank. But otherwise living like everyone else. It's the people who suddenly get wealthy, lottery, inheritance, sportsmen, etc. who end up broke because they don't know how to manage that amount of money. If you live in the past, you'll wreck your future. I needed to hear this. Thank you. Got friend dumped by my best friend of 15 years about a month ago. I'll try to live by this one even though it's hard. Friend breakups are the worst. I had one. With time you will heal. I hope you pull through. They're in my experience worse than girlfriend breakups. My ride or die brother and I haven't spoken in 2 years. We were homeless together. Gave each other food and clothing whenever one needed it. We had so many memories. So many heartaches. We were brothers from the day we met. Both struggle with the same demons. We never had to explain ourselves to each other. I was trying to get clean and thought I was doing good. Pretty much told him he could live a better life and the life he was living wasn't a life to live. He basically told me to beep myself. I would do anything for that guy. Man. Everything in moderation. Including moderation. I was an overly cautious, anxious type. My wife overreacts and I underreact. Act broke to stay rich. My wife and I do okay for ourselves. We live in a nice neighborhood. And our neighbors drive fancy cars and seem really wealthy. Then when we talk to them more, we find out they have no savings. It alarms me how common that is. You don't have to be stupid to do dumb things. We all screw up from time to time. But that's not a reflection on your intellect. Be an adult about it. Acknowledge your error as necessary. Correct it. Learn from it. If you're worried about people judging you for screwing up, they're probably paying a lot less attention to you than you think. And chances are they either didn't notice or didn't care. Don't stay up late to do anything you wouldn't get up early to do. Posted while I watch YouTube at 4 a.m. The acid of bitterness eats the container that holds it. I never learned anything when I was talking. You cannot change the past. But you can ruin a perfectly good present by worrying about the future. Life becomes easier when you learn to accept the apology you never got. Cutting people out of your life doesn't mean you hate them. It simply means you respect yourself. Not everyone is meant to stay. You really need to know a person, inside and out, to be in love with them. If you're filling in blanks, it's likely infatuation. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. I've never heard the one about accepting the apology you never got. But I need to. I believe it was Carrie Fisher who said that holding a grudge was like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get hurt. Listen more than you speak. My dad used to say, "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion." Great advice. Be patient. This comment simple but applies to so many aspects in life. Personal and professional. Never accept criticism from someone you'd never seek advice from in the first place. Good criticism is just another form of advice, while bad criticism is utterly worthless and should be ignored. Learn to tell the difference. Having an expectation from something/someone you can't control is the cause of sadness. I was told in high school to take the honors chemistry class instead of the regular one. I did not believe in myself and did not think I'd be able to handle an honors course, but it was one of my best decisions. Turns out the regular chem teacher was horrible. Half the class dropped/failed and everyone else scraped by with CS or BS, not a single A. My honors teacher so genuinely loved teaching and she cared so much. It was such a special experience because it's hard to find teachers like that in high school. What are honor classes? And why were you scared of them? Honors classes are harder versions of regular classes. They pretty much just cover more stuff faster than regular classes. Yep. Thanks. My grandfather, whose family fled Italy during WW2. People don't fear pain. They fear the thought of being in pain. That just sounds like fearing pain with extra steps. Pain plus, now with anxiety. No one really knows what they're doing in their job. The closer you get to the roles at the top, the more you'll see that everyone is still making their best guess. Instead of worrying about making the right call 100% of the time, and procrastinating on decisions, get better at failing but moving forward from it. I like your piece about not fearing failure, but I disagree that we're all just winging it. I find that's, at times, an excuse the mediocre use to comfort themselves. I think it is also used as an excuse not to try, or to attribute the success of others simply to luck. If no one knew what they were doing, we'd have no successful heart surgeries. I became successful precisely because I knew what I was doing. To an extent. But accepted I knew very little at first and would never know everything. It allowed me to grow rapidly, and opened a lot of doors. I am not sure if this is more what you're getting at, but not being afraid to fail is, I feel, a component of confidence. And confidence should have substance behind it. Make the other person's life a tiny bit more valuable with each conversation/action. In other words, leave a person better off X. Happier. Wiser than she was before meeting you. You deserve what you accept. One of my university professors once told me that, and it has stuck with me, and I will never accept failure. And it taught me never to blame my shortcomings on circumstance or anyone else. From my professor in college about a final in an email. Students, I will not wish you good luck on this test. Luck is wished on those who believe they will do bad. Instead, I wish you the best on finding time to study for this exam, guaranteeing you a passing grade. Reminds me of a professor who explained on the first day that his class is structured to be easy to pass, easy to fail, and hard to get an A in. So much of life is like that. If all you want is to not fail, just show up and do the basics. If you want to excel, it gets much more difficult. I know it's not advice in the traditional sense, but I think about it a lot. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you're not sure, always ask. Never assume. If you ask for advice, listen to it. Treat people the way you'd like to be treated yourself. Never talk over someone. Wait until they finish. Don't waste time worrying over something that hasn't happened yet. Always prepare as much as you possibly can for something. Don't make excuses to yourself. Don't waste time worrying over something that hasn't happened yet. Always prepare as much as you possibly can for something. And hope it's not the same thing. Always wear sunscreen. Be kind to your knees. You'll miss them when they're gone. My grandmother married a man and we hung out a lot when I was younger. We played a lot games and stuff, and he was a really nice man who never cursed or raised his voice. Before they moved out of state, he pulled me aside when I was 12 and told me, no matter what anyone says to you, you can be anything you ever beeping wanted, because I believe that much in you. Maybe that's not advice per se, but I always took it as such and took it to heart that a kind man said that to me. Don't invest time and energy into being upset about issues/problems/beep ups that you can't change anything about. Will it matter a day/week/month/year from now? That has put a lot into perspective for me and what to prioritize. Everyone knows this advice, but as you get older it means more. Don't worry about what others think of you. This can be from direct feedback from people or your mind suggesting to you what these people may think of you. Don't worry about it anymore. Don't let other people's words or your self-sabotaging inner dialogue hold you back. You can be amazing and successful in anything you put your mind to. Don't let anyone hold you back from your happiness. Sometimes this is easier said than done. But be confident in yourself, and most of all trust in your abilities. No one knows you better than you. Buy cheap. Buy twice. Was some advice my dad once gave me. Has proven correct many times in my life. I've found that it is a good practice to buy cheap kits and replace the parts you use the most with expensive ones. Especially with tools. That way you can afford a bigger collection of specialized tools to have on hand for that one time needed. But doing that means you have bought twice, even if it's only for some of the kit. But then you don't buy expensive versions of the items you never used. You can't light yourself ablaze as a means to keep others warm. There are friendships and there are friendships. Most people you'll get to know during your life will be friendships. Just a few will be friendships. That doesn't mean the relationships that end don't have meaning. Though be prepared that a deep one, even most deep ones, will eventually fade. And that's okay. It may sound like a downer, but it has helped me to not get so devastated when I realize someone I care about isn't part of my life anymore. I needed to read this today. Thanks. I'm happy to help. My thoughts go out to you and everyone in a similar situation. I know how bad it can feel. but try to remember that eventually each day will feel a little less so. Just remember that your own well-being is the most important thing in your own life. And don't hesitate to do whatever you need to do to strive for that. You are the most important person. Don't ever feel bad about that.